Champions Mile has been open to international competition since 2005, but as yet no horse trained outside of Hong Kong has been able to win it. 10 times Group 1 winner in New Zealand and Australia King Mufasa, along with Group 2 winner Penitent from Great Britain, have been given the task of trying to arrest the trend. They'll have to be at their best to get past Hong Kong's leading chances, Glorious Days for John Size and Douglas White, and Packing Whiz, who fair flew to win the Chairman's Trophy. Casper Founds has Elaine Spirit as a fair backup chance to Packing Whiz, while John Moore's duo includes Extension, searching for 3 Champions Miles in a row, seemingly the one race in Hong Kong that he wins, and Dan Excel, who's been threatening to win a big race. Pure Champion continues to run extremely well for Tony Cruz and Gerald Mosse, while Richard Gibson sets Gold Fun his most challenging career assignment. So the overseas play for the Champions Mile is light on numbers this year, and even if King Mufasa and Penitent produce their best, will that be good enough to earn the Group 1?
Hello everyone and welcome to our special preview of the Group 1 Champions Mile. $12 million race with 9 runners to go to the post. The field lightening off over the past week. We're without Ambitious Dragon and also withdrawn from the race Admiration from the John Moore team. It still leaves him though with a strong hand in the race, Darren.
Yes, it certainly does for John Moore, and he'll be looking to make it 3 in a row with Extension, which would be a history-making performance, but I doubt seriously on his present form whether Extension could win this race tomorrow. But yeah, just a field of 9, so the numbers are a little bit light, but the quality's there. King Mufasa from New Zealand, well, he's just Mufasa in New Zealand, but he's going to be king here on Sunday, and Penitent from the UK are the 2 foreign runners to go up against Glorious Days and Packing Whiz primarily.
Hong Kong trained horses have dominated the winning results of this race since it was open to international competition in 2005. Brett, this year, can the 2 internationals possibly arrest the local dominance?
Well, I'm going to actually suggest that possibly King Mufasa might be able to, but as you've mentioned, Joe, history suggests that it won't be happening. Last year, Cityscape ran 2.2 favourite in this race after running very well in the mile earlier on in the calendar year, went to Dubai and bolted up there and then came back here and couldn't perform. So it's been a race that Hong Kong have had a strong threshold on. It's interesting to note too that the last favourite to win this race was Good Barbar 5 years ago. He was 1.6 favourite. Over the years, it has been a race that's thrown up a bit of a wipeout from time to time, or a horse at least at double figures.
Clint, you've been watching these international horses very closely at track work during the week. Have they impressed you?
Well, look, I think King Mufasa's arrived really well and seems to have travelled in fantastic order, and I know the camp are very pleased. And the same really applies for the English horse. I don't think the English rate is probably in quite as good of order, but you know, that this time of year can be a bit tricky as far as that's concerned.
Hong Kong trained horses dominate the field this year in terms of numbers. Glorious Days to carry saddlecloth #1. Also lining up Pure Champion from the UK Penitent. Admiration, of course, the withdrawal from the race Elaine Spirit, and Gold Fun, the lone 4-year-old coming out of a very good performance in the recent Hong Kong Derby to take on the older horses on Sunday. Small fields always mean tricky tactics.
Yes.
Clint, how do you see the race panning out?
Oh, look, the first 100 or 200 in this race are going to be critical, and let's take a look at my speed map now. And look, I think King Mufasa will roll forward, and I think he will lead. Now, Helene Spirit could be the fly in the ointment a little bit. I think if Gold Fun is in danger of being caught 3 wide from gate 6, he might press on, and that could inject some speed through the first 200 or 300, but then they're going to slow it down anyway. No matter what happens, I see Extension being positively ridden as he was last year out of the gates. Glorious Days can be a little bit hit and miss out of the stalls, and I think Douglas will probably try and stay 1 off. So I think he could be 3 back, 1 off. Dan Excel to get the lovely run leaders back, and Packing was out the back. But I don't know if Penitent and Pure Champion will be that well placed. And I think early it's critical for Gold Fun if Helene Spirit does kick up. But no matter what happens, I think through the majority of the race, they're going to certainly slow down. But it's going to be interesting, the jockeying for position inside that first couple of 100 metres. And just a quick talk about the odds there, Joe, as well. I've marked it to 105%. I think you've got to mark Glorious Days the favourite. I've got to Packing was a clear second pick. And then it's pretty open. I think there's probably 3 or 4 and there's not much in it.
Let's now focus on the two international contenders, King Mufasa and Penitent. King Mufasa, Clint, has had a good while to settle into his surrounds at Sha Tin, and he's improved. Oh,
absolutely, and the horse has really arrived very well, and this particular gallop, Michael Rodd was on board, came down the stretch in 22.6. What I like to see with the international horses when they come is if they're moving fluently. I thought the Japanese entrant last week in the QE2 was, and I think he ran very well, and I think King Mufasa, for an older horse, he's an 8-year-old, there's nothing to say that 8-year-olds can't perform well at this level, and I think he looks an absolute treat. This one was a little harder to get a line on. I thought Penitent, a bit more of a sort of lazy worker, but look, we talked to the racing manager of this horse a little later in the program, and he does give some insight that the track rider who's been on this horse felt that the horse was moving well, but for me, I just think he might be one of those horses that doesn't overly impress. You can see he's got quite a shuffly action, and there's not really a lot being asked. And working on his own, some horses, they just don't do much at all, and that might have been the case with Penitent. But certainly, as far as King Mufasa is concerned, I think they'd be, really, really happy with the way the horse has come out of a recent Group 1 runner-up position. And I think they both look well, but King Mufasa's sort of looked a little better.
He's no oil painting, is he, Penitent?
No, definitely not, but he'll look a lot better if he wins.
All right, well, King Mufasa, an interesting story in the lead-up to this race for him. During his very successful Sydney campaign, which he finished runner-up in the George Ryder Stakes to the top 3-year-old Piero, he'd had an operation for what's known as an epiglottal entrapment.
This was, just prior to the Sydney run, was it? OK, that's interesting with King Mufasa. As the former Piero's well documented, fantastic effort by it in second place in the Doncaster 2 weeks later. I think there's a lot of quality about this, and there's a lot of form as well behind All Too Hard, who could be a candidate for Australian Horse of the Year. So I'm that close to going with this on top here, King Mufasa, because I don't think the lineup this year is anywhere near the depth of previous seasons. And I'm not worried about his age. I'm just assessing him on that last run there in Sydney.
He's a real warrior, isn't he?
Oh, he is, Joe. And I think Clint, hit the nail on the head before when he mentioned about how the horse has been here for a while and how he's settled in. I saw him a week ago when we were looking at the QE2 horses working. He was out there working with them. He's just glowing at the moment. And, when a horse comes here and he's comfortable and he's happy, he's going to perform. Has he got, the CCs to win the race? Definitely. Perhaps he doesn't quite have the turn of foot that some of the others do. But he's going to go into the race tip-top.
He's always competitive at the highest level of racing. King Mufasa, a 10-time Group 1 winner, and his trainer Bruce Wallace couldn't be happier with him going into the Champions Mile.
Yeah, I think he's done really, really well. He's come on since his last run, had a bit of a checkered few things to get over going into that last Group 1, but the benefit's starting to show on him now, and he's arrived in great condition.
It's an interesting race this year because there doesn't seem a lot of pace on paper, but your guy's one that makes his own luck.
Yeah, he's adaptable. I think that's a good thing with him. He has a high cruising speed, so if needed, he can do what he needs to do. It doesn't seem to affect him at the end. So I think barrier draw 6, it's like an each-way option. We can watch them on the outside and on the inside. So I think Michael's already got a bit of a race plan. We'll just see how it pans out, But, he's an up-front runner. That everybody knows that. So, big chance that that's where he'll be.
He's been a prolific, obviously, Group 1 winner, and he's clearly got the credentials. You've travelled here in the past with some success as well. How do you line this guy up with compared to some of your others that you brought?
Well, we've, based on those previous trips, we've followed the same sort of pattern. And when I sort of advised the Archers that I thought he would be a good horse to come, I had that sort of in mind and the types of work that I wanted to do with him when he got here. Taking nothing off the other horses, Darazari was an extremely good horse. Kingston Bay was probably a level below this guy, but he's right up there. He is who he is. He's 8-year-old, but it took one of the best 3-year-olds in Australia to beat him the other day, and he gave him 2.5 kilos. So for him tomorrow, it's set weights. So he'll be competitive. I'm confident of a good run.
What about the other international contender, Penitent, a Group 2 mile winner in the UK? The run we're going to bring up is the Naif Joel Stakes back last year.
Well, you get the impression if we had some rain tomorrow, that wouldn't be an issue. A lot of wet track form in the UK for Penitent.
I think they would want some rain about, and it could well happen. But Look, I think the horse has to improve on what we've seen of his overall form. I think he needs to bring a little bit more. But, you know, smaller field, tactically they might change things around and you never know.
A bit of a yardstick, I guess, is Gordon Lord Byron.
Yeah.
This ran second to Gordon Lord Byron in the Prix Fleuret in France, beaten a length, and Gordon Lord Byron was here, and I think he ran third in December.
He ran well, but I'm a bit like Clint. I think, you know, Penitent, I'm sure he'll bring his best and his A game, but whether it's good enough, I think there's a big question mark next to that.
During the week, we caught up with the horse's managing co-owner, Nick Bradley.
I think whenever you're at Group 1 level, you can't be too confident. We've been second in Group 1 on the Act Day in Paris. We've come here, there's no soft ground at home. We're hoping we might get a bit of rain here. We're hopeful rather than confident, but I think we're in the right race.
What can you tell us about his run style? Does he generally lie up near the pace, or does he come from off it? Because this race, there doesn't look a great deal of speed in it.
We run him according to the race. He's flexible. We've gone forward before, we've taken a posse before. We're going to have a look and see how the draw's working out and, you know, come up with a plan based on that, but he's flexible.
And all of the connections, happy with the way the horse has arrived? Obviously, you were in Dubai just before you came here, but happy enough with the way he is?
Yeah, Sean's been riding him every day this week. I spoke to him about an hour ago. He said he's never moved this well. So, you know, we couldn't be happier. We're just hoping for a bit of rain. Might be a career best for him then. I think he'll probably have to put in the career best to get his head in front, but he won't have to improve too much. He's probably 4, 5, 6 pounds behind the favourite, but you know, there's a chance. David said he's better this year than he was last year, so we're hopeful.
So some encouraging words there, but really, is he a bit out of his depth?
A little bit hard to assess, really. He can sit handy as well, so I don't think they'll be getting pulled over for going too slow in this, if you know what I mean, Joe.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be disgraced at all. I think, as he's touched on there, had the rain have come, they would have been feeling a lot more confident about the horse being able to get his nose in front. But surprisingly, the rain probably won't be coming.
Okay. So they're the two international contenders discussed, Penitent and also King Mufasa. And King Mufasa, obviously the one that you all agree is the best of the two.
It looks that way.
Yeah, I think we're pretty familiar with how strong the Australian form is this season, and that half-length second to Piero stands up very well.
King Mufasa's trainer, Bruce Wallace, is no stranger to international competition. A number of years ago, he brought a horse by the name of Darazari to Hong Kong, and the horse ran a creditable second in the Hong Kong Vase.
He's a bit of a pretty boy, this fellow. I think Darazari is certainly a very nice type of horse. Wouldn't be a surprise if he cost a bit as a yearling, actually, because he's a really, really nice looking horse.
The crowd roars. The gates are back and they're racing. Caetano third on the back of the speed. Darazari fourth and poised beautifully. Darazari went to the front. He had a three-quarter break at the 200. Indigenous digging deep for Douglas White, but it's Darazari for Shane Dye. Now Indigenous digs deep. Hong Kong roars. Indigenous goes to the front. Darazari can't go with him, and they've done it. Indigenous and Neck beats Darazari